So it's happened. Electronic Arts, EA, has acquired Codemasters. Codemasters, who acquired Slightly Mad Studios last year, and to do Project Cars 2, 3, 1, whatever you want to call it. But Codemasters already were doing games such as Formula 1, Dirt, Grid, loads of the above. So yeah, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I'm going to look at the positives for this situation because I love sim racing. Sim racing's kind of my thing. And there's a lot of negatives out there right now to do with this. Have been for a while since it first broke a couple of months ago that EA were interested in buying Codemasters. Came out of the blue, really. But I think this is huge for sim racing specifically. We've seen the growth of sim racing due to COVID. I would say, in my opinion, it's grown maybe 5 years in the space of 12 months. It's ridiculous. The amount of companies wanting to be involved in the sim racing space has opened up opportunities on all titles. It's not just the titles such as Formula 1. It's opened up on all titles. We have never had a massive, massive company such as Electronic Arts produce a game on 3 platforms. Okay, we've got Gran Turismo, which is just PlayStation. Potentially that's going to PC as well with the new game. But then we have got things like iRacing, which again is a really small studio, but iRacing's kind of what everyone looks at in terms of multiplayer. It's only on PC. The only real game that's out on all 3 platforms right now would be ACC, but they've missed the mark on console currently. But then with the history of the PC version, that improved hugely after, within 12 months of it releasing, and now it's probably the most popular game outside of iRacing there is in sim racing. Project Cars 1, Project Cars 2, albeit they had their issues, they're the only games that have been produced on 3 different platforms and were relatively good. Project Cars 3, well, the less said about that, the better, really. As much as it's an enjoyable game, it really did miss the mark in terms of how it's marketed. Electronic Arts, they take over, and they are now the owners of all of these brands here that you're seeing flash across your screen right now. Imagine a company such as Electronic Arts, one of the biggest names in gaming, produces a sim racing title that features multiple different classes of car, but has a multiplayer system that can rival iRacing, has a license system that can rival iRacing, can have the daily races just like GT Sport. Something that we've been lacking. We've not had a game that can produce this, not only on PC but on consoles. I think this could potentially, and again, this is all potential, this is just my opinion, could be one of the biggest moves in terms of where sim racing goes and us hitting the big markets, the Call of Duty sort of area, the Dota sort of area. I just feel like this is a massive, massive positive. Again, this could all blow up and not be the case whatsoever, but the potential there. Electronic Arts haven't bought this company to just continue on the path that they're going currently. Like, they've obviously seen something in this where they can make money. We know EA love to make money. So for me, I think there's loads and loads of positives. Money, speaking of money, they also have the opportunity here in terms of investing in a game, whereas Codemasters were quite a small company. As much as they look huge, they are still quite a small company in the gaming space. So investment into developing the games is very, very limited, yet they've still been able to produce what they've been able to produce. So imagine a company like EA coming in and going, right, here you go, it's a blank check effectively. Let's produce the best we possibly can. Like, the limits are genuinely endless in this. Resources, again, comes really underneath the money. The history of EA. Okay, you got franchises such as FIFA, Battlefield. Like, those are huge, huge, huge genres or huge titles within the gaming space. It's like you don't get much bigger than those. Again, they have their positives and they have their negatives, of course. But ultimately, when you think of football, you think of FIFA, Electronic Arts, and when you think of FPS combat, you're thinking of Call of Duty and you're thinking of Battlefield. Battlefield's right up there. So for the history, you can only imagine that they're going to be wanting to be the very, very best when it comes to racing games. Look at this. It says, welcome to the home of racing games now. Like, that already states, it's a statement of intent for me. Esports, like, what is the potential with the esports? There's only so much you can do with stuff such as FIFA. It is 1v1, a football team versus a football team. Whereas with motorsport, there's so many different, like, tracks. There's so many different genres of racing, rallycross, then you've of course got the electric racing, then you've got road racing, you've got oval racing. Like, there's so many different ways you can go with it. Like, the potential for esports is massive if it's invested in the right way. Electronic Arts being now the sole holder of all of these racing titles that you're seeing will bring in bigger companies, and this is just hypothetically, but companies such as Coca-Cola, the biggest brands you can think of in the world will now be maybe potentially investing or looking to invest in esports, which is then only going to give bigger opportunities for people in the space who are the top drivers, whether it be Formula One, whether it be, Project Cars, whether it be Dirt, whether it be Need for Speed now. All of these titles I would imagine would have an esports space now, but with, again, bigger investment opportunities for companies, which means more money into this, which means people can make a genuine living from this. It's going to bring more eyes to this. So then also people who are streamers, YouTube content creators, they're going to have more people looking at them. They're going to have more people searching for those games because, again, there's more interest. Like, for me, the positives are absolutely endless in this scenario. So again, I see it being a really, really good thing. The potential is, well, it's endless, really. Realistically, it is not a glass ceiling, sorry. There is no ceiling. Like, you can, I don't know, reach for the stars, ultimately. There's a very few people who are able to make a living from outside of, obviously making games or indeed producing events. There's very few people that are able to make a living from being a streamer or from actually earning a living by being a part of a team or, making money from sim racing events. This could change that. This could genuinely change that. I think, again, COVID's the worst thing in my lifetime to probably have happened in the world ever, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people around my age. But for the sim racing space, it's kind of like the best thing that's ever happened. As horrible as that may sound, because it has indeed. I don't think if COVID hadn't happened, this deal wouldn't have happened. I don't think that there would have been the interest in the sim racing space from a company like EA than there is. Clearly, obviously, it's done, the done deal. What are we going to expect? For me personally, I expect that the games will still be the same. It'll be, yearly titles released by Codemasters and Electronic Arts, such as Project Cars, such as Grid, such as Dirt. The mobile games, I guess they're more of it'll just be add-ons. Expect to see more esports on mobile games, in my opinion. Yeah, I just think that we are going to see more in terms of esports. I think it's going to be linked to esports more. There's going to be, on a release of a game now, there'll be this is going to be our plan for this season. Who's going to be the world champion on Dirt? Who's going to be the world champion on Grid? Who's going to be the world champion on Project Cars? There's going to be more of a format where you can qualify via in-game, and I feel like there's going to be a better structure in terms of online racing, which should indeed, of course, that's maybe a way people qualify. That's how I see the potential of this deal working out. But there are some cons, of course. We've got to talk about what the negatives are, and EA have a huge history. They have a huge history of, kind of copying and pasting games. So FIFA is a prime example of that, where it's very much the same. I actually don't play FIFA anymore, and this is the first year I've not bought it, but for the last maybe 5 years, I'm not buying it. But I still have bought it through habit, but it's just no fun anymore. It is copy and paste. It is pay to win in terms of the Ultimate Team system. And that's kind of the only game mode I really, really enjoyed in the end was Ultimate Team. But the fact that you have to sink thousands of pounds upon the game to get the best team possible for you to really be competitive, it was just fell out of love with that game specifically for that. The microtransactions, again, very similar to what I was saying about Ultimate Team. Again, I don't think people need to be too worried about microtransactions in terms of racing. Like, if they make it so that you can only maybe, let's use Formula One here hypothetically. Oh, you need to pay for the Mercedes, otherwise you can't be the quickest car in the game. Like, I don't think we have to be worried about that or anything like that. I think there may be something similar to sort of Ultimate Team we have to use as an example, but the base gameplay, I think you're going to be golden. So I don't think we have to be too worried, but ultimately, they could be microtransactions, which turns people off. But that is how they make their money. This is how they're able to produce deals such as this for a company such as Codemasters. And ultimately, microtransactions, you can ignore them. You don't have to indeed pay for them. But, if it's cosmetic and it doesn't affect the gameplay, there's nothing wrong with microtransactions. That's how they make their money, ultimately. But again, if it affects the gameplay, if it affects, if it becomes pay to win, then that's a big problem for me, ultimately. a lot of games are unfinished with EA. It's kind of like we've got a deadline. We need to get the game out by this date, and it turns out that it's not the greatest. We've had that a few times with Battlefield, FIFA. Not so much FIFA because FIFA's pretty much copy and paste. It is a kind of they've got a deadline and they stick to it. Which with sim racing titles, that hasn't been the case. We have been, we've kind of come to get used to games not being released on time and being put back and being put back and being put back and released in beta, released in alpha. I think that will change now. With all of these titles, they will be released on a specific date. We've seen with Dirt a couple of times it's not worked out well. In terms of they've released with, well, they released Dirt 5 with, it wasn't compatible with wheels and stuff like that. And again, like, they've always promised specific dates and stuff, and they've always paid off. But yeah, with EA, they will want everything released on time, everything working, and ultimately that could cause issues. So I'm a little bit worried that things are going to be a bit more rushed now, but I think ultimately we are going to get a better product as a whole. And the sim racing space will indeed grow. My only other worry really is the copy and paste element of EA. I don't want to just be playing the same game every single year and nothing be changed. The difference with sim racing and any other genre is the feel of games, like the physics of games is just so different to anything else you can experience within the world of gaming. You feel absolutely everything. When you're playing Call of Duty, you're running along and you feel the bullets come out the gun, and that's kind of it, really. It's not. And with FIFA, like you get the vibration of the controller when someone tackles you, but it's not. It's a lot easier to copy and paste those games. With these, if you copy and paste them, it's just you can feel it instantly. But after 5 minutes of playing a game, you're just going to be sat there going, "Oh wow, okay, so this is exactly the same as the last one. Brilliant. That wasn't great." So that's another thing I'm worried about. Maybe striking gold with one game and then just copy and pasting it, and you kind of just paying for the same product. That's a bit of a worry. But ultimately, you can have that with any gaming company. I think as a whole, this is huge. A huge opportunity in terms of sim racing. A huge opportunity for content creators. A huge opportunity for people who produce esports events or produce events in sim racing. I just think the space that we are in right now has just been given a huge shot in the arm. I'm optimistic for it. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are indeed pessimistic about it. I'd love to do a podcast with a few people that have got genuine opinions about this, whether it be positive or negative. So just shoot me some messages in the comments or shoot me a DM on Twitter at @ControlVision, and maybe we can sort something out in the future. But I think this is one of the biggest things. I've been involved in sim racing for a very long time. I think this is potentially one of the biggest, if not the biggest, announcements we've ever had in the time I've been involved. So we all hope for the positives. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed watching this. Sorry if there's no crazy graphics on the screen or anything. I just wanted to really get this out there. And the thumbnail will probably be terrible as well. But yeah, just there's my opinion on it. Would love to hear your opinions as well. No one's right and no one's wrong as well, by the way. So absolutely get your opinion in. But if someone disagrees with you, don't be an asshole and call them everything under the sun. People are going to disagree with you. You're going to have different opinions. That's just the way the world works. That's the beauty of being a human being. I've been Actual Vision, and I shall see you all next time. Bye-bye.